Alright guys, we're back. Spiritual Authority, Temporal Power, Part 2. René, Guénon, everyone's favorite Frenchman. We're back outside. 7:30 in the morning. I gotta work like 8 or 9 hours today, so we're gonna shoot this. I've had a little caffeine, but not the normal amount, so maybe not the same high energy as usual. We're at 60 subscribers. Just wanted to say thanks, guys. That's awesome. Hopefully, we'll keep growing. So I appreciate that, guys. Alright. We're at chapter 2. We're going to chapter 2 and 3 today. Functions of priesthood and royalty, okay? The opposition between spiritual and temporal powers is found in one form or another among almost all people. The oldest symbols are found in Celtic stories, but we are going to focus on India's, Brahmins, and Kshatriyas, and Europe's priesthood versus empire, okay? So, here we go. Sorry, I got Lily out here as usual, so just got to keep an eye on her. You know, she likes her outside time. The same struggle continues today, but since the disorder of the modern world and mingling of castes, it is complicated by heterogeneous elements that conceal it from the notice of superficial observers. It is not that anyone has contested the fact that sacerdotal and royal powers, which are traditional names, okay, those are the traditional names for the spiritual and temporal powers, each had their own powers and their own domain. The dispute usually bears only on the question of the hierarchical relationships that should exist between them. It is a struggle for supremacy. Having first been subject to the spiritual authority, warriors, who are the holders of temporal power, revolt against this authority and declare themselves independent of all superior power, even trying to subordinate spiritual authority, which was its original source of power, and use it in its own domination. In such a revolt, there must be a reversal. Okay? So, Guénon wants to clarify terms now. He says, spiritual authority is interior in essence, okay? Affirmed by itself, it has power within itself, it doesn't need it from an external source, and it operates as if invisible, okay? So, that's spiritual authority. Temporal power is a power better suited for temporality, and it's evoking the idea of materialism just within its name. Temporal power, temporality, so it has to do with the material world. And it is it is directed outward. So, like we said, spiritual authority is interior. This is an exterior thing, mastering of your surroundings, right? Spiritual authority is mastering your temptations, your will, you know, and temporal power would be mastering your surroundings, putting order into your surroundings. But what is really meant by priesthood and royalty? Guénon wants us to know. He says royalty is everything in the social order properly referred to as government, even if it's not a monarchy, okay? So, I mean, technically he's saying the American government, even though, it's, you know, he has things to say about America, but let's just say a normal government, even if it's a constitutional republic, the people on top are still the royalty in the government, is what he's saying. Doesn't have to be a monarchy. So, royalty, they have two things that they're responsible for in a society, which is on one hand the administrative/judicial, and the other hand is the military. The administrative/judicial is internal, and the military is external. The military is the sword, and the other is the scale, the administrative and the judicial. So this is the temporal power, and we see the sword and the scale actually used as symbols in a lot of perceptions for royalty. I'm sorry, a lot of symbols for royalty. So it's hard to perceive in the West today, but that was originally what royalty was. Maybe when you look at America, you go, this seems weird. I don't even know if that's, it seems like seems like the purpose of the American government is to distribute wealth to certain people. Let's not go into it. And not today. Can you see Lily back there doing her thing? Guest star in Lily. Look at her. Beautiful dog. Alright, the priesthood. Conservation/transmission of the traditional doctrine, in which every social organization finds its fundamental principle. Different forms over different eras do not affect the doctrine, which is identical plus immutable. Okay. In India, okay, they have their doctrine. So it doesn't matter if it was 3,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. If the society was focusing on the doctrine, doing everything in their society based off the doctrine, okay, that means that the priesthood is doing its job, okay? Regardless of religion either. As long as the traditions are authentically orthodox, should have thrown that in there before my little sequitur there. The function of priesthood is not exactly what is attributed by Western conceptions, especially today with clergy and priests. What has sacredness in the doctrine, not the religious form. Okay, remember that. Spice it up here a little bit with a cigarette. I'm going to repeat that. All right, what has sacredness is the doctrine, not the religious form. Okay, you see that? That's what's most important, is the doctrine. Sacred and religion are not equivalent. Sacred is more broad, he's saying. Okay, so religion is within the dome of sacredness. Religion is part of the sacred world. Some parts of the sacred have nothing to do with religion. And the priesthood, by name, the traditional name is lay sacerdotale, relates to all with sacredness. Okay, so the priesthood originally, I think this is probably Latin, I assume, is lay sacerdotale. Okay. So it's always dealt with sacredness, he's saying. The etymology of the word priesthood comes from sacredness, essentially. Or, you know, the sacerdotal term earlier. Alright, the true function above all priesthood is knowledge and teaching. Its proper attribute is wisdom. Makes sense? Yes, other outward functions like performance of rites belong and exist because it requires doctrinal knowledge. Okay, so these things, when you see a priest doing the sacraments, this still concerns doctrinal knowledge, okay? Because they would have had to have that knowledge to even do these rites, okay? I gotta read a note here. Got a lot of notes coming up here, I know. Guénon's big on the notes, and a lot of them are fucking interesting, so. Okay, here we go. Note 7, all right. Sorry, guys. The exercise of intellectual functions on the one hand and rituals on the other has sometimes given rise within the priesthood itself to two divisions, which the clearest example is in Tibet, he says. The first of the two great divisions comprises those who preach observance of moral precepts and monastic rule as the means of salvation, and the other is a purely intellectual method, the direct path they call it, liberating the one who follows it from all laws whatsoever. It is essential that the followers of these two systems be kept strictly separate from each other. The monks in the first system rarely fail to recognize that the virtuous life and discipline of monastic observances truly quite excellent and in most cases indispensable though they may be, nevertheless constitute only a preparation for a higher path. As for the partisans of the second system, all without exception fully believe in the beneficent effects of strict fidelity to the moral laws and also to those decreed especially for the members of the Sangha, which is the Buddhist community. And all are unanimous in declaring that the first of the two methods is more recommendable for the majority of people. Okay, so the normal method, not the more orthodox or occult method. This passage seems worth quoting in full from oh, I don't have that quote, so we're not going to leave that. But the first part, I thought that was interesting, the two different conceptions of paths there, spiritual paths. The priest does not have a monopoly on traditional knowledge. Its job is to not only conserve it, but also communicate it with those deemed fit, to distribute hierarchically based on intellectual capacity. Okay. All right. All knowledge of this order thus has its sources in sacerdotal teaching, which is the instrument of its regular transmission. What appears to be reserved especially to the priesthood because of its character of pure intellectuality is the superior part of the doctrine, okay? What is the knowledge of the principles themselves? This is what's important. Whereas the development of certain applications is more suitable for the aptitudes of other men, so like the warriors, whose function put them in direct and constant contact with the manifested world. These are the temporal powers. The sphere to which the applications relate, all right? This is why in India we see certain secondary branches of the doctrines are studied more especially by the warriors, where the spiritual Brahmins attach only a relative importance to them, okay? They're more important for the warriors, so why do the Brahmins spend so much time studying them? They don't. their attention being constantly fixed on the order of the transcendent and immutable principles of which all real constitute but accidental consequences. Or to look at it from the other direction, the attention of the Brahmins is fixed solely on the highest goal, in a relation to which all the rest is nothing but a contingent and subordinate means. All right? There are even traditional books specifically intended for the use of the warriors because they present a doctrinal aspect adapted to their own nature. And in India, these are called, all right, bear with me, the Itihasas and the Puranas. It's the best you're getting out of me. All right, it's 7:30 in the morning. It's the best you're getting. All right. And traditional sciences, especially suited to them, whereas pure metaphysics is the prerogative of the Brahmins. Okay, we are still speaking of the Brahmins and warriors taken as a whole, not as individual exceptions. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about they're still working in dual function. They do not in any way affect the principle of caste itself, proving only that the application of this principle can be approximate, especially under the conditions of the Kali Yuga. So, like I said, in normal conditions, we're talking about how the spiritual class guides the warriors. Lily! Hold on 1 second. I'm not going to edit this out, but get your ass back here. Stay back here. All right, we're back. All right. This leads to cockiness of royalty, right? Denial of the source of their knowledge and the previously mentioned inversion. All right. In tradition, this is designated like this, all right? On one hand, you have the principles. On the other hand, you have the applications. So under the principles, you have metaphysical order. Under the applications, you have the physical order. The principles have the greater mysteries. The applications have the lesser mysteries. The principles go beyond nature, and the applications are of nature. Okay? We kind of already went over that, but I guess I put it to fucking really make that go in. All right, here's a note here. From a slightly different, though closely related point of view, one can also say that the lesser mysteries concern only the possibilities of the human state, where the greater mysteries concern the suprahuman states. Okay? That makes sense. That makes sense. Doesn't that make sense, guys? Are we making sense this morning? Is everything good? The priesthood, by virtue of its teaching function, gave the royalty, the temporal caste, effective legitimacy, which is where the divine right of kings come from. Okay? That's where the divine right of kings come from. And it should be added that in India, the third caste, that of the Vaishyas, whose proper function are those of the economic order. So originally the spiritual caste also gave the economic merchant class spiritual order. Okay, these people were not working for themselves. We're going to get into the merchant order here. I already know that's coming up, so I think he's preparing the way for that. All right. The same also applies for sacred and royal art. Okay, so for they existed preserved domains until royal art took on its own destiny in ancient guilds. Okay, in ancient guilds it preserved its domains. Freemasons, he says, modern Freemasons came and put their own symbols in it, because art, what it used to transmute was, even though it was misunderstood, it was a vestige of the past, the way the past thought. I'm going to do the Heideggerian terms. Heidegger would say art was a view into the world of a certain period. So you would see the art and you would go, wow, that's their world. That's how life, the world existed to them, what they saw when they saw the totality of being. So I'm going to put that on a Guénon here. But he says, Freemasons, these fucking bastards, these J bastards, fucking fucked with our art, dude, and started putting a bunch of fucking weird symbols in it. Not cool, Freemasons. If you're watching this and you're a Freemason, fuck you. Fuck you, buddy. Stop fucking with our art. Stop putting troons in our art. You stop putting your 33 symbols in it. We're done with it. Disgusting. You disgust me. Alright, so what's the relationship between knowledge and action? We kind of already talked about this in Crisis of the Modern World. But we have a whole other chapter on it. And I wrote a lot, so a lot of it he didn't cover. It's more knowledge and action as it relates to spiritual authority and temporal power. If you didn't watch The Christ in the Modern World, you're going, why are you talking about this? Just say the fucking stuff. So here we go. What's the relationship between knowledge and action? Well, we're going to find out right now. So knowledge par excellence is knowledge of principles, we said that, independent of the contingent applications, and they belong exclusively to spiritual authority, and nothing derives from the temporal order within these principles, okay? Only when you apply the knowledge do you enter it, and it's obvious that the temporal power in all its forms engage in action, whether militarily, judicial, administrative. By virtue, it is contained within the action of the so-called human world, okay? Where spiritual authority is based on knowledge by the nature of things, what is reserved for a spiritual authority is supreme knowledge, which cannot enter another order, okay? The warrior class, the merchant class, they do not get this supreme knowledge, because they're fucking dorks, okay? The sacerdotal caste does not wish to keep these truths to themselves, but of necessity, of the difference of things. They're not selfish. This is just how it is, okay? These people do not want to be like this. It's just how it is. You do not get the knowledge. I'm not selfish. I'll share the supreme knowledge with you, okay? I'm here for you guys, okay? You're watching this and you go, why is Jordan sharing this knowledge with me? Because I'm not selfish, guys, all right? I'm a good guy. I'm here for you. This constitutes the raison d'etre of the foundation and the caste distinction. You like that? How was that? Did those French classes pay off, dude? Look at me. Look at me. I should just start reading these to you guys in French. I'll just start translating the book from French, Guénon's French versions. I could probably get the French versions of these. I'm probably there. I don't speak French well, but when it comes to reading, I mean, when you take a philosophy degree, you focus more on the reading, not the speaking, right? Get your ass over here. Get over here. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done. Sorry I didn't have the high power today. I'm just trying to do this before work. I'm trying to get it out to you guys. Otherwise, all is confusion if you don't have this foundation, right? It's disorder like today. Because things aren't carried out based on knowledge and spiritual basis. They're carried out based on fucking materialistic, money-grabbing instincts. Today, people are not content to distinguish between the temporal and spiritual. They just want total separation. They don't even want it. They just say, get the fuck out of here, dude. It's worthless, they say. Nevertheless, they are more mixed than ever before. You know, he's writing this in 1930s and all that. They're more mixed than ever before. I don't know. I mean, they are. Obviously, I'm looking at American politics. I don't look at, you know, I'm Norwegian and German. I don't just look at Norwegian and German politics too much, but I feel like obviously the political is mixed into the religion. That's why I'm hesitating, is obviously political seems to be mixed in religion very well, but in America is religion mixed in with politics? I guess, hey, not Christianity. I guess there is a certain religion mixed in with politics. I'm wrong. Guénon, you were right. It's just not Christianity, okay? I'm sorry, guys. You're right, Guénon. Why did I go against my boy, Guénon? I thought about it. He's right. Think about it. Which religion? Think about it. All right. Here we go. Come here. We're exposing them. All right. What Guénon is trying to talk about is spiritual authority in its purest forms, right? When Guénon's talking about, he's trying to not bring in this mixture in here. It's hard to find examples though, and this is in 1930, right? He's writing this in 1930, saying I don't even know where the fuck you would find this today, dude. Maybe in some remote village. The West is lacking. To the East, which is still retains the superiority of knowledge over action. Once again, this one, unless I don't follow like Eastern politics, so I don't know. Is he right on that? In 2026, he was maybe right about that in 1920. I don't know. If there's any people who study Eastern politics, know anything about what's going on in Korea, China, Japan, is that true? I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Maybe. The superiority and the transcendence of knowledge is seen in a way that plays the role of Aristotle's unmoved mover, right? Action has legitimacy and importance because change is important, right? Change is always important. We love change. Okay. Without a principle from which it proceeds, and by the very fact it is the principle of change, cannot itself be subject to change. Okay, so the subject to principle can't be subject to change, thus being necessarily unmoved. He's seeing that change would be the unmoved mover, right? The supreme knowledge that guides the change is the unmoved mover, is what he's saying. All right, and it's at the center of the wheel of things. Okay, that's some kind of great, the wheel of things. We love the wheel of things. All right, one more note for you guys. I love you. The unmoving center is the image of the unmutable principle. Movement being understood here as the symbol of change in general, of which is only one particular kind. So if people know what the wheel of change is, maybe drop that in the, I should have maybe looked into that. Drop that into the comments here. Knowledge alone enables one to leave behind the world of change, becoming, and its inherent limitations. And when it attains the immutable, it itself possesses immutability. Immutability. You got me. I'm gonna leave that in. I don't edit it. For all true knowledge is essentially identification with its object. Okay, so what he's saying is what true knowledge is the ability to see what an object is in its purest and truest forms. That's what it is in the world of ever-moving change. Okay. Spiritual authority is immutable, temporal order is not, and subject to the change unless linked to spiritual authority. Thus, the reason for royal initiation. This is where the divine right in the West and mandate from heaven in the East comes from. So, this is why it was so important to have royal kings, and in the East to have mandate from heaven, because that kept the royal class from changing. It kept the royal class from being subject to the powers of temporality, right? That was good. It's no longer good, all right? Things aren't good, because now you have French royal class being groomed by trans people. Dude, the Bridget Macron thing's weird. Even if it's not a man, that shit is fucking crazy. That's what he's talking about, okay? Royalty would never come no. What the fuck? Hey! Yeah, I see you. Yeah, you're slick. Real slick. Here's a quote from Lao Tzu about the mandate from heaven. It will not be out of place to relate here how Confucius himself saw the mandate to be carried out. Okay, I thought this was really cool, so I'm gonna drop this in the chat. In order to make the natural virtues shine in the hearts of all men, the ancient princes first of all applied themselves to governing their own principality well. Okay, so that's what's most important. How's their government doing? In order to govern their principality well, they first restored order to their families. Okay, but how do you do that? In order to restore order to their families, they must establish a proper order in their families. Wait. Yeah, in order to establish proper order in their families, they worked hard at perfecting themselves first. In order to perfect themselves, they first regulated the movements of their hearts. To regulate the movements of their hearts, they first perfected their will. To perfect their will, they developed their knowledge to the highest degree. Okay, so one develops knowledge by scrutinizing the nature of things. Once the nature of things is scrutinized, knowledge attains its highest degree. Knowledge having arrived at the highest degree will become perfect. Will being perfect, the movements of the hearts are controlled. The movements of the hearts having been controlled, every man is free of faults. After having corrected oneself, one establishes order in the family. With order reigning in the family, the principality is well governed. With the principality being well governed, the empire soon enjoys peace. I thought that was awesome. I've never read Confucius, but I thought that was great. Okay? So cool. You know, obviously you saw the literary tool he was doing there, going forward to back, back to forward. That was pretty cool. Alright. That's from the Tao Hio, part 1. Alright, just so you guys know. I thought that was awesome. Great quote. We need a leader like that. We need European Confucius. Alright. Matters do not stop with the temporal order, right? / realm of actions taking over. Someone even lower on the caste has taken over. The economic / merchant class. The Unos have taken over. All right, and when the warriors rebelled, they still affirm a truncated, even if real doctrine, one that denies anything, okay? So at least they had a real doctrine when the warriors were in charge, but, you know, it denied anything outside of the temporal order. And it was irregular and not genuine tradition. It was condemnable in regards to truth, but had certain grandeur, okay? It was alright. He's saying it was alright, but, you know, it wasn't fucking orthodoxy, god damn it. This attitude of the rebel Kshatriyas could be characterized quite exactly by the designation of Luciferians. So, when the warriors were reigning, he's saying it was essentially a Luciferian doctrine, right? It was essentially, there's nothing outside of myself, I am the god of my own realm, my own being, and that's kind of what it is when the warriors, because if you are the supreme rulers of the temporal order, then obviously your ideology would be there's nothing outside of the temporal order, and I control that, therefore I am the god. I you know, it's just kind of it. Just kind of comes all together there. I need another coffee. Just all kind of comes together there, guys. Just all comes together. All right, this can't be confused with Satanism, though. Although there is doubtlessly a certain connection between the two, Luciferianism is the refusal to recognize a superior authority, where Satanism is the reversal of the normal relationships in the hierarchy, right? The latter being often a consequence of the former, okay? Just as after his fall, Lucifer became Satan, he's saying, usually people become Luciferians first and then become Satanists, because they'll usually say, well, there's no authority, and then maybe they might go, well, there is actually spirituality and authority, but I'm gonna reverse the normal hierarchy, okay? And he's saying that that's not good. It's not good, guys. All right, we can sum it up like this. Supremacy of the Brahmins maintained doctrinal orthodoxy, where revolt of the Kshatriyas leads to heterodoxy, but domination of the lower merchant class brings intellectual night, and this is what the West risks spreading across the world. Okay, that's not good, guys. All right, I'm gonna read this, and then we'll get on out of here. Some will perhaps reproach us for speaking as if caste existed everywhere, and for improperly extending to all social organizations designations that properly fit only in India. But since these later essentially point to functions necessarily found in every society, we do not think this extension unwarranted. It is true that caste is not just a function, it is also and above all that which, in the nature of individuals, fits them to exercise this or that function in preference to any other. But these differences of nature and aptitude also exist wherever there are men. So he's saying these hierarchies aren't only in India, these get formed from men existing, okay? These only get formed because men exist, there's differences between men, so obviously they form. The difference between a society where there are castes in the true sense of the word and a society where there are none is that in the first case there is a normal correspondence between the nature of individuals and the functions they carry out, subject only to errors of application that are in any event exceptions, okay? Whereas in the second, this correspondence does not exist, or at least exists only accidentally. The latter case showing what happens when the social organization lacks a traditional foundation. It hardly needs pointing out that social classes, as they are understood in the West today, have nothing in common with true castes, being at most only a kind of counterfeit, without validity and significance, since they are not at all based upon the differences and possibilities implied in the nature of individuals, right? They're now based on economic class and basically how much of a scumbag and sociopath you can be. It turns out, I don't know, getting to the top of the hierarchy by loaning out a bunch of money or shifting a bunch of fucking numbers in a bank account, in a stock account, or scamming a bunch of people and then not having to go to jail for this, not a true hierarchy. It turns out it's just kind of gay. It's just kind of fake and gay, as it turns out. It's really fucking fake, it's really fucking gay. In normal cases, there is always something comparable to the institution of caste, with the modifications proper to this or that people. But the organization we find in India is that one that represents the most complete type with respect to the application of metaphysical doctrines of the human order. Okay? In short, this reason alone should suffice to justify the terms we have adopted in preference to others that we might have borrowed from institutions, having, by their own specialized form, a much more limited field of application. For these other terms would be unable to furnish the same possibilities by expressing certain truths of a very general order. And he says in the note, the reason for this is that among traditional doctrines having survived up to the present day, the Hindu doctrine seems to derive most directly from the primordial tradition. But this is a point which we need not dwell. Besides, there is another reason which, though more contingent, is non-negligible. It is very remarkable that the social organization of the West world in the Middle Ages was based precisely on the division of castes. The clergy corresponding to the Brahmins, the nobility to the Kshatriyas, the third estates to the Vaishyas, and the serfs to the Shudras. Okay, those are the four castes. Yeah, we find that in a lot of traditions. I think we even find that in Plato, you know what I mean? Like, this is just, Plato even saw this. The Old English designations, Lords Spiritual and Lords Temporal, refer to the first two of these Western castes. Oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that. They were not castes in the full meaning of the word, but this coincidence, which is certainly not fortuitous, still permits a very easy transposition of terms in passing from the one case to the other. And this remark will find its application in the historical examples we shall consider below. So, we got chapter 4, which is called Brahmins and Kshatriyas, their respective natures, and the dependence of royalty on priesthood next. That will be the next video. Sorry I don't have my normal energy today. Messed up a couple words, but we're going to be alright, guys. We're going to get through here. I know you appreciate everyone commenting and looking forward to the video. I really do appreciate that, guys. So, you know what it is. Follow God. Do the best you can. I know it's fucked up here in the Kali Yuga. Don't do drugs. That shit's horrible. Don't even smoke cigarettes like me. That shit's fucking horrible. That shit's tragic. And always sign a prenup, because you know how American girls are. Alright, guys. Take it easy.